is a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump. Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Well, good morning. And the top story this morning is that President Trump was indicted on 4 counts. For a new indictment, according to the Washington Post, a grand jury has indicted the former president for multiple alleged crimes stemming from his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The 4-count, 45-page indictment accuses Trump of 3 distinct conspiracies and charges that he conspired to defraud the United States, conspired to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspired against people's rights. So joining me now to discuss this and also what I think is the much bigger story, which is Hunter Biden, and we'll get to that in a moment, is my very good friend, Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Mike, good morning, and what do you make of this new indictment?
Hey, Jenna. Well, big news, of course. It's no surprise at all that following Devin Archer's extraordinary testimony to our House Oversight Committee on Monday, the DOJ suddenly drops more charges against President Trump on Tuesday. You know, this is their pattern. If you look back, you know, in June, in July, and now again this month, every time there's a big development in our House investigations of Hunter Biden and the First Family's, you know, crooked business dealings, brazen corruption, literally on the next calendar day, Special Counsel Jack Smith drops a new indictment or a new set of charges against Trump. So this is the pattern, but I just think at the end of the day, you know, these are efforts at distraction. They're never going to change the real problems. I mean, President Biden is in serious trouble here, and we've got, you know, a perilous moment in the history of our country.
We do. And I think that the bigger story, like I said, really is Devin Archer's testimony. And I mean, I recall it was the narrative from Joe Biden for years and years and from the Democrats that he never talked to Hunter Biden with his business dealings. And now suddenly it's, oh, of course he did. And that's totally okay. So what did Devin Archer actually testify to, and why, in your view, is this important, potentially moving toward impeachment?
Well, Jenna, look, people get lost in all of the machinations here and the twists and turns in the story. A lot of people are just throwing their hands up, which is really the great peril of the moment. We can talk about that too. But the summary of the Devin Archer, testimony is that Joe Biden lied. I mean, this is very clear now, and you see it, as you noted, in the mainstream media's pivot in their messaging. We know that he lied when he repeatedly insisted he had no knowledge of or involvement in Hunter Biden's crooked business dealings. I mean, we know from the Devin Archer testimony, and remember, he was Hunter's best friend, his closest business associate. In his words, Joe Biden was the brand that they were selling, right? And we now know that the president himself personally engaged in those discussions with all these, you know, foreign oligarchs and business partners of Hunter and all these crooked dealings. The president was involved in at least 20 occasions in discussions specifically about all this. So they can't hide from it. The facts are the facts. And the big question now is, what is the president hiding from? Why? Why would Joe Biden lie to the American people so emphatically for so long about his involvement in all these dealings? You know, is he compromised? Is he corrupted? Is our national security threatened right now? That's what's driving our investigations, and that's why we're going to continue this in earnest. We have to. It's our duty under the Constitution.
I'm speaking with Representative Mike Johnson out of Congress, and this. There's so many questions here. I think that you're right that the inquiry and the investigations need to continue. And is this something that maybe the cover-up is worse than the crime? That if Joe Biden had simply come forward and said, yes, this is everything that I did, that wouldn't itself be criminal activity? I mean, maybe that's actually a stupid question because, I mean, it seems obvious. But is it something more that now, because he has changed the narrative and pivoted for so long, that this is now driving the inquiry to say, what is he hiding?
Well, right. I mean, because everybody, you don't have to be a criminal investigator, a member of Congress, or otherwise to assume some things here. You know, in the law, it's a res ipsa matter. You know, the thing speaks for itself. It appears on its face that the president is compromised, that he is corrupted. I mean, we could go down the list and spend the whole program today talking about things that have made all of us scratch our heads, in recent months and in the last couple of years since President Biden's been in the White House. One of the most glaring that constituents have asked me about in the last 48 hours or so since the Archer testimony. Well, gee whiz, when the Chinese spy balloon was allowed to float unimpeded for 7 or 8 days across the country and over major military installations, no one can understand why in the world the Biden administration, the White House, would not, take it down. Why did they allow that to happen? Well, I don't know. I'm not saying it is true, but I'm saying it certainly begs the question, does the CCP have something on the Bidens? I mean, have they, has one of the payments in one of those big business dealings, urged or compelled the president not to take appropriate action against this foreign adversary? I don't know. But I'm just telling you that's something that the American people are demanding answers to. That's one of 1,000 examples that we could list that just makes you go, well, it has huge and serious implications under the United States Constitution because of these activities. This is not small stuff. And if you're jeopardizing national security, we in the House have no option in this. We have to follow the truth where it leads. And that's what you're going to see in the coming weeks and months.
And that's a very principled response to say that you have no option but to follow the Constitution and to follow the evidence where it leads, because there are some that are suggesting that if an impeachment inquiry goes forward, that this is just totally political on one hand, or that this is just playing into the Democrats' hands because removing Joe Biden, impeaching him, and then requiring him to sit for trial in the Senate would just be playing into the Democrats' hands, because either then we get Kamala Harris, which I don't think any conservative really wants, or then paving the way for some other Democrat nominee. So what's your response to those critics?
Jen, it's a really important point, and I've been trying to make this to my folks in my district and to anyone else who asks about it, because that's the big question. They impeached Donald Trump twice. Why can't you guys show some spine and go impeach the president? Well, listen, I was on impeachment defense twice for President Trump because they were completely nonsensical and frivolous. And you and I both know that. We've talked about it so many times. But impeachment is not a tool for politics. It's not supposed to be wielded. It's power that Congress holds. And the House Democrats made a mockery of impeachment during the Trump presidency, but we have to reel that back in because that's a danger to our underlying system itself. And so House Republicans acknowledge the weight of this. If we go forward with an impeachment inquiry, which I personally believe is called for now, I think it's beyond time for that, do it in a very sober-minded way. We know there are certain political realities to all this, but that is not our concern. Our concern has to be the Constitution. I mean, Jenna, consider this. So they're mounting evidence right now of bribes, extortion, and abuses of power that could not previously have been imagined, right? I mean, a document, a confidential FBI source alleges that the president accepted a $5 million bribe, right? IRS whistleblowers that come forward about Biden being pressured by Chinese companies into paying him. It goes on and on and on. Well, if you look at a Constitution, which is what we have to do, that is our only concern in this capacity. Article 1 gives the House of Representatives the sole power of impeachment, and Article 2 says if you are the president or the vice president or a civil officer of the United States, a cabinet official, okay, you shall be removed from office on impeachment for or conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Bribery is listed as a cause for impeachment in the Constitution. So if the sitting president of the United States has been involved in a bribery scheme, I do not have a choice as a member of the House Judiciary Committee about whether or not we pursue the investigation of that. I have no choice. I have to. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So this is not a political calculation. We have to do what's right and what the Constitution calls for, and it's just not even in dispute.
I'm speaking with Representative Mike Johnson, and again, that is so principled because comparing and contrasting this with the two impeachments of Donald Trump that were based in these theories that tried to shoehorn the alleged crimes or actions into that last clause or other high crimes and misdemeanors that was a political calculation and ultimately didn't result in a conviction. Bribery specifically listed in Article 2, Section 4. And if Republicans are wanting to actually follow the Constitution instead of making it a political calculation by saying, well, just because the Democrats made impeachment political, then we don't want to look political by impeaching and thereby become political. I mean, then you wrap yourself in knots by not actually following the Constitution. And so where is this headed then in terms of a timeline? Because we are coming up on, in about a year, the 2024 primary. And moving forward with impeachment, can this be done quickly? Is this something where the actual formal investigation is opened in the next week or so? What is possibly the timeline?
Well, that's the big question, and ultimately the Speaker of the House, of course, will make that decision. And when Kevin McCarthy has been asked about it, he says that this has to be a decision made by the entire Congress, and what he means, of course, is the Republican conference, because no Democrat in the House is ever going to go along with this. It wouldn't matter what the evidence is. Because of that political calculation, they're not going to engage in it. I mean, I would be shocked if any of them do. So this is a decision that the House Republican Conference has to make in earnest, and I think quickly. Again, not because of the calendar, not because we're under the Constitution, not because we're headed into a presidential election, but because this is where the evidence leads us. And I think the developments from Devon Archer is just one more straw that is about to break the camel's back. I think an impeachment inquiry, you heard Speaker McCarthy suggesting that over the last week or so, that's an appropriate step. I personally believe it is. I think we have to. I think now the evidence leads us to that. And again, we have to follow the truth wherever it leads. I would just say this overall, Jenna. I mean, and you and I have talked about this offline. I mean, this is a really perilous moment in the history of our country for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is because there's now this widespread lack of faith in our critical institutions themselves. I mean, you got the Biden DOJ. First, they tried to politicize our criminal justice system, and now, with this latest indictment of Trump, they're trying to criminalize the political speech and behavior of the leading opponent of the sitting president. I mean, the Biden DOJ is doing serious and lasting damage with all these political hit jobs and everything they're involved in. There's a real risk now that millions of Americans are never again going to trust our justice system. And you can't hold a constitutional republic together if people lose that. And because what they see is an actual two-tiered system. They're beginning to just throw their hands up and say, what's the point? And all of us, this is two points, okay? All of us need to be praying that we can resettle all this. I mean, God help us in this endeavor, because we're going to lose the country if we don't. And part of that is our actions and our behavior, as duly elected representatives of the people in the House. We have to do our constitutional duty. We have to do it methodically and without regard to politics. And I'm one of the voices in the room. I'm the vice chairman of the House Republicans, as you know, and I'm on the Committee of Jurisdiction. I'm going to continue to say that and urge do the right thing, because then we'll have God's favor in all of it, right? And that's a big thing.
Absolutely. And we will be praying for you in that endeavor. And I think those are wise words to our AFR family and to every Christian who is listening, who cares about the future of this country. It's not about just Republican versus Democrat or political calculations. It's about doing the right thing and ultimately praying for favor to protect and preserve this great nation. And so in just the last literally probably 30 seconds I have with you here as well, Representative Johnson, and thank you so much for coming on and giving us these words of encouragement. This in context, I think, is so important as well when we look at how far back this actually stems with Hunter Biden, because it's not just right now the sitting president. This was when Joe Biden was the vice president. And then remember, this was the first impeachment of Donald Trump was over the phone call to Zelensky over asking what's going on with Burisma. So this has been a long history, and we really earnestly will be praying for you. So thank you so much for your time today. And we'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy
wealthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
Welcome back, and I'm talking with my good friend Josh Hammer, who is the senior editor at large at Newsweek and also the host of the really great podcast, The Josh Hammer Show. And he actually did an episode, which is why, Josh, if you send me things that I need to listen to, then I'm going to be like, come on and talk about it on the show. So do that at your own peril, obviously. And I'm only teasing him because, we always send each other things back and forth. But he did this great show that you do need to listen to, the latest episode that was on the Devon Archer and Biden family corruption, and a really, really good episode. So Josh, break this all down for us, because I think that a lot of people have been following this a little bit tangentially, but they're kind of thinking, okay, so we have this testimony in Congress. What does this mean, and is anything going to actually come of it in terms of accountability to the Biden corruption family?
So it's been a little hard, honestly, Jenna, even as a lawyer, to disentangle all that is going on when it comes to the various prosecutions, investigations, and whatnot of Hunter Biden. And I say that because we just had this plea deal that was purported to have been reached, but obviously was not actually reached, because we saw how it fell apart in court just last week. But we had this plea deal that was reached with David Weiss, the federal prosecutor in Delaware, who the media never failed to remind us was a Trump administration holdover. That was their way of, trying to claim legitimacy, that they would get to the bottom from a legal perspective of all of Hunter's misdeeds. So we had the DOJ investigation, which lasted 5.5, 6 years or so. It lasted a very long time. And then at the same time, especially since Republicans retook the House in January, we've had various House Oversight Committee, House Weaponization Subcommittee, subpoenas, investigations, things like that. So it's been a little hard to kind of keep it all separate. But, in recent weeks, they seem to have particularly kind of blurred and merged together. So the plea bargain that Hunter had reached with DOJ, with David Weiss, it fell apart for multiple reasons in court a week and a half ago or so. And one of the reasons that it fell apart was because the judge in the case, Mariela Noriega, who should be applauded. To be honest with you, I did not expect this to happen. I thought that this would be a fairly straightforward kind of rubber stamp of a plea deal. But no, she really kind of applied some serious kind of judicial and analytical rigor. And she asked some straightforward questions to prosecutors and the defense team. And one of the questions that the prosecution and the defense team did not even agree upon, which means that the plea deal couldn't have possibly been worth the faux signatures that were signed in the paper that it was written on. One of the questions that they disagreed upon was, does this plea deal, by which Hunter pleads guilty to a misdemeanor offense for tax charges, and then he gets this gun charge just totally erased, stricken from his record, does all of this foreclose? Does it prevent the possibility of additional prosecution for FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act, or any kind of, foreign overseas corruption, business dealings, things like that? And amazingly, the prosecutors and the defense team disagreed on that. The prosecution said, no, it does not foreclose that. The defense team said, actually, yes, it was our understanding. So not a good look for the lawyers involved there. And I think that was one of the reasons that the judge in this case, said that the plea deal is no good. You guys take 30 days, get back to us with a real deal. And that ties directly into Devon Archer. That gets us directly into what was happening on Congress this week. So earlier this week, you had Devon Archer testify in a closed-door hearing before James Comer of Kentucky's House Oversight Committee, testify that Hunter would get Joe Biden on speakerphone as basically an intimidation tactic of sorts to kind of to get his Ukrainian, Chinese, or whatever he was working with, his foreign business counterparts, to basically just try to intimidate them into agreeing to the terms of the various deals, whether it was the $83,000 a month in the Burisma context or whatever he was doing in Shanghai, China when it comes to private equity. Yeah, he was basically just trying to intimidate them into doing it. And, then it's kind of all like a live jump ball right now, Jenna, right? Because we're currently waiting to see what happens with this revised plea deal. Again, the judge gave them 30 days. We are in those 30 days right now. So we'll wait to see what happens. We'll wait to see whether the plea deal explicitly mentions whether or not the DOJ can come back and additionally prosecute potential violations of FARA or other foreign business deals. But it would be reckless for Republicans in Congress to rely too heavily upon David Weiss and the DOJ. They need to continue to kind of use their subpoena power, use their investigative power. And yes, if need be, they could always, of course, consider and use the nuclear option for congressional remedies, which is the impeachment power for Joe Biden as well.
I'm speaking with Josh Hammer, and Josh, I spoke with Congressman Mike Johnson early on in the first segment of this program, and his opinion in speaking with Kevin McCarthy that he articulated is that they are going to pursue their subpoena power. They're going to open a congressional inquiry that is moving forward to impeachment, and it was his opinion that he very clearly said that it would be a dereliction of duty, basically, that they have no other option, in his view, than to pursue an impeachment inquiry directly focused on the Burisma issue and all of these things with Joe Biden's foreign business dealings. And he specifically mentioned Article 2, Section 4, which, of course, lays out that a president shall be impeached for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, and so specifically was focused on bribery and that bribery scheme. So in your view, if they do pursue this nuclear option, I think a lot of conservatives have kind of said, well, why haven't they already? And this is kind of, coming months too late. We should have been prepared to do this in January as soon as the new Republican majority came on board. But where does this sit from, in your view, from both a legal and then also political view?
Well, I first wrote a column calling for Joe Biden's impeachment almost 2 years ago now, actually. I wrote a column after the Afghanistan withdrawal which I supported, by the way. I supported getting out of Afghanistan for many years now, going back to, the end of the Obama administration, maybe. I supported getting out of Afghanistan for a long time, but that was done in such an incredibly botched manner with zero foresight. These horrific images of people falling off the planes as they're taking off, the Taliban flag being raised, the former U.S. embassy in Kabul. Everything about that withdrawal was just so epically mishandled that I actually wrote a column at that time, almost 2 years ago now, saying impeach Joe Biden. So I've been long on the record as saying that the impeachment remedy is wholly appropriate when it comes to this man who is so clearly and tragically, I would say, it's so clearly and tragically, in the throes of senility. This is not someone who really should be in that office for any number of reasons. Whether it's the political substance, whether it's just his sheer mental capacity. So I have no objection whatsoever to the House filing articles of impeachment for this or for the Afghanistan box withdrawal. They probably missed the window of opportunity for that, or there's probably other opportunities to potentially file articles of impeachment for this absolutely horrific president as well. But I think that it's completely appropriate here, in particular, if the stonewalling really gets to a certain point. Impeachment really is kind of the nuclear weapon, right? It's a nuclear option for Congress's suite of remedies. If you think about the various tools that the framers gave the Congress as a way of checking the executive branch, It's basically the power of the purse. You can defund anything and everything you want to. By the way, on that note, if House Republicans wanted to actually defund the special counsel, if they want to specifically defund Jack Smith's office when it comes to what he has been doing with former President Trump, they could do that. So that's a very powerful tool that Congress does not fully exploit, is the power of the purse. And then they have the subpoena power, and then ultimately, if none of this goes according to plan, then you have the impeachment tool. And you're right. I mean, the explicit constitutional criteria for impeaching a president of the United States are treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. Most impeachment articles are filed under high crimes and misdemeanors, which is kind of the political catch-all phrase, which Alexander Hamilton roughly describes in the Federalist number 65 as a, quote, a breach of the public trust. So it's not necessarily kind of a criminal statute that you have to violate. You could, but it's more just about this kind of broader notion that you have let down your duty to safeguard and vouchsafe the integrity of the people, of the nation state to which you have taken this very solemn oath. But bribery is right there. I mean, the congressman is right. Congressman Johnson is right. Bribery is right there. It is explicit. And that's exactly what it looks like happened here. When it comes to these phone calls with Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, these $5 million payments, which apparently went $5 million to Hunter, $5 million to Joe. And, Jenna, there's this crazy video, right, that is now resurfacing, but many of us who were paying attention at the time saw at the time, where Joe Biden was at the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, a very kind of swampy neoliberal foreign policy think tank outfit. He's there openly bragging about the fact that he threatened to withhold aid to Ukraine unless they fired Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor who Mykola Zlochevsky of Burisma wanted the Ukrainian government to fire. So, Biden was a gaffe machine, has been a gaffe machine for his entire political career for the most part. He basically openly admitted to doing exactly that which House Republicans are now accusing him of doing. So I'm happy to hear that Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans are getting closer to filing articles of impeachment. I would like to see maybe a little more kind of use of subpoena investigative power before we kind of get to that point, but I certainly do not object to it whatsoever.
Yeah, and I remember that video, and that was something that was really played more prolifically across media in the context of the first impeachment of Donald Trump, saying, of course he's going to ask what's going on. And of course, anyone who is concerned about American sovereignty and making sure that no one in our highest offices is abusing their power, going against their obligation to solely protect American interests, like what it appears to be clearly that Joe Biden is doing with that video. And so I think the bigger context here should not be lost on people, Josh, that, this has been sort of a long-spanning inquiry, really, that, starts with the vice presidency of Joe Biden. And then you have, all of these things that have that then culminated in some of the witch hunts toward President Trump, the first impeachment dealing specifically with that Ukraine phone call. And now we have, other things that are coming out while Joe Biden is in office. And, the question that I asked Congressman Johnson, I want to ask you as well, in just the last few minutes we have here, is that, how does this then look heading into 2024? Because there's a legal obligation, of course, and I think he's right that that using the at least impeachment inquiry power, and then if we get to articles of impeachment, if it's a duty under the Constitution, you discharge your duty. I mean, kind of period. But we can't ignore the greater political context as well of the impact on 2024. And do you think that the timing here is actually more favorable to the Democrats, who may want to kind of remove Joe Biden and say, he's become such a liability, and that it's actually more favorable to them at this point than it is to Republicans?
Well, it's a very interesting question. I'm kind of sympathetic to both sides of that particular answer, actually. If you go back, Jenna, earlier this year, back in January, People have forgotten about this quite quickly, but Joe Biden had his own classified document retention scandal, right? I mean, everyone has been paying attention, of course, to former President Trump's own legal scandals when it comes to classified documents with the Mar-a-Lago raid and Jack Smith and all of that. But President Biden was also, he admitted that he was reckless when it came to his retaining classified documents that this Chinese Communist Party funded Penn Biden Center for Global Diplomacy in Washington, D.C., as well as in his garage with his Corvettes, if you remember that, in Wilmington, Delaware. And, my read on that, if you go back and look at the timeline, because it looks like prosecutors first became aware of what Biden was doing with these classified documents around the time of the 2022 midterm elections last November. But the fact that it didn't come to light until January after the election suggested to me that what was going on was that you had some low-level prosecutors trying to kind of force Biden's hand and get him out of the race for this very reason, that he's a very weak candidate, and to try to shunt him aside to get some, more palatable Democrats in there. But that didn't work, right? I mean, Biden basically kind of just blew his way right by that. He announced his campaign in April. He has a very bare bones campaign right now with literally like 20 full-time staffers or something minuscule like that. So I think the Democrats are basically stuck with Biden. I think a lot of people definitely want him to go away. The polls reflect that. Like a very high percentage of Democrats say that they would prefer another nominee. Some candidates like RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson are polling a lot higher than a strong incumbent would permit. But, when it comes to impeachment, I think you'd see some of kind of the activist crowd on the left, some of like the MSNBC hosts, the CNN guests. I mean, they would probably get excited about getting Joe Biden aside and kind of getting in Gavin Newsom or whatever. But it strikes me as something of a pipe dream. And, when it comes to kind of, riling up the base, I do think that Republicans would be riled up definitely by trying to impeach this terrible president as well.
Yeah, well, Josh Hammer, always really great comments, and you can listen to his further discussion on this issue and Devin Archer and the Biden family corruption on his show, The Josh Hammer Show, and, of course, read everything that he writes in Newsweek. And you can reach me, Jenna, at afr.net, and I'll join you tomorrow morning right here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning.
With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
On MyPillow's 20-year anniversary, with over 80 million MyPillows sold, Mike Lindell wants to thank each and every one of you by giving you the lowest price in history on his MyPillows. You will receive a queen-size MyPillow for only $19.98. The regular price is $69.98 and just $10 more for a king size. You'll receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, which I love, and so much more. This is the time to try out some of the amazing products you've had your eye on from MyPillow. So go to mypillow.com and enter promo code Jenna to receive this amazing offer on the queen size MyPillow for $19.98. You can go to mypillow.com or call 1-800 564-8475. Be sure to use the promo code Jenna. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. Go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Jenna.